Hi friends, today we'll see an MVC design pattern with a database connectivity code. So let's create a new project. Let's give this as before creating any project, let's create a database layer. So for that we'll create a new project of Windows, and that will place a clearer. We just create a class library called as, let's say, database layer. So here you'll see one class is there. Just delete that class, we don't require this class. Now we need to add one item called as area.net entity model. So let's give the name for this like data model. Let's add it. Let's generate a database. Now we'll have to create a connection. So I'm connecting to the database by giving my server name, and I'm selecting my database. So you'll see my database is ASP. Just test the connection, succeeded, okay, and just change the name. Let's give the name as ASP DB entities. Let's go for next. You'll see I want this two things. Just click finish. So you'll see here my data model gets added over here. Save this. Let's save this in my default folder, database layer, and build this database layer project. Now you'll see the tables get added over here. We have some procedures written. For example, I've written the procedure to insert the student details. So this procedure, it gets added over here, having two parameters, student ID and student name. I hope you know how to create a stored procedure. So I'm just moving ahead for MVC code. Now just save this, build this database layer, and just close this. Now start with your MVC project. So create a new project which will be my web MVC to web application. Let's give the name MVC project. Let's click OK. So it will ask you for unit test project. So don't create this project. Now you'll see here like M stands for model, view, and this controller. So these three things are really important. So if I select views, you have site master available over here. So dynamically, if you want some links to be displayed over here, you can add here. For example, by default home and about link will be get open. Now I'll add two links. For example, this will be my add student. Let's give this as create. This will be in my student folder. Let's see the display student. This will show you the entire list of students. Now here we need to add the references first so that we can see the entire records of that SYMCA table. So here what we need to do is first just go to the references, add the reference, and just browse to your database layer where we have actually saved in this folder, and just connect your DLL file. So DLL database get added over here. Now we need one more reference which will be your system.entity.data. Data.entity, sorry. So just click that, so you'll see that reference gets added over here. Now we need to configure your database connection. So here, if you'll open this web.config file, we have by default connection name is available, application services, but we want our database layer to be connected, so we require that connection string. So let's go for that connection string, which is there in my project. In database layer, you'll see in app folder that connection string is available. So I'm just copying that in my web config. In my web config folder. So again, open that your project. And in your web config folder, just save this. Now next thing is we need to create views. So first of all, yes, one more thing, we need a configuration for the data entity. So here we require an additional assembly called system.data.entity with version 4.000, culture neutral, but public key token will be different. So you'll get it from the websites because it is not inbuilt available in your Visual Studio 2010. So you can get it from the internet. So I have that assembly with me. It's in my different folders. So I'm just taking off that assembly. So this is my assembly. I'm just putting it into my web.config. Just pasted that assembly. So this is now in my assembly. Here that is gone somewhere, so I need to just take it out that again. Okay, now this configuration part is over. Just close this all. Now next thing is we need to create an views. So I'm just creating views, add folder. In that folder, let's create a student folder. In that student folder, I need to add views. So my first will be index page. Now in that index page, I want to show the details of entire students. So I'm just selecting that student database layer dot student master, and I want to display as a list. Just add it. So on my index page, you'll see the student ID, student name. So this will display you the list. Now I want to add one more view called as create. So here I'm going to create a view with create content, view content option. Just click add. So here create view gets created. Now the purpose of models, I need to create a model. Before that, you need to just create a controllers, add the controller for the student, and just enable this create, update, delete, and now you'll see this functions have been written over here but without logic. Now I need to import that database layer because I want to show that entire details on my index page. So here I'm going to show all that details. First of all, I need to create the object of SYMCA DB entities. Let's create an object equals to new SYMCA DB entities. Now here on index page you will display the data. So here we required link queue code. So let's give the name as stud equals to from C in underscore entity dot student masters order by C dot student ID, and you have to just return as stud. This is for index page to display all the student records order by student. It is giving you error. Okay, and one more statement is required, that is select C. Here we need to stop. So this is a link queue code. Now next thing is, if you want a details to be displayed individual students. So we have a detail section over here. So you can also write, I'm just copying that same code but with some changes. So here where we need to give the condition where C dot student will be equal to ID. Just put everything into the bracket, and I want that to be first order default, and return that student. So this will display you as individual record of a student. Now as we have added one detail section, so let's add one detail section also in the views. This will be my details. So here it will display the student details. Just add it. Okay. So initially we have displayed all the details. First of all, the list of students, and when you click on the detail section, it will display an individual student. Let's execute a project, then afterwards we'll proceed for inserting the records. So let's display the students. So you'll see all the students. When you click on detail section, it will display the individual student details. When you go back, it will again show you the same details. Now when you click on create new, it will display you the fields, but this code will not work unless and until you write the code for create. So we'll write the code for create. As I said, we have to use models here, so I'm just adding one model. Let's give the name as student class. So here I'm just giving database connectivity code system.data using system.data.sql client. As we're using SQL Server, so we need to use these two namespaces. Now I'll just use SQL connection equals to null. I'll write one common function called as public get connection and initialize con object SQL connection here we need to pass on the connection string. So you can get this connection string from your server explorer. See here, if you just right click, properties, you can just copy this connection string, paste it here, and just make one additional slash. So this function will help us to establish a connection with a database. Now here I'll add a code for before that we need to just take some variables. Like I'm taking some variables such as student ID, taking student name, and I need to add some properties over here. So I'm adding properties called as public int student code, and I'm adding some getter setters over here. So get and set. So when you're getting that values, it means you are returning something. Return your student ID, and we are setting something means you are assigning some values to that student ID. Similarly for student name, let's take this as student name and let's assign the value student name. So this is over. You can just build this, but yes, one more thing, here it is a string, so we need to here take a string. So build this again. Succeeded. Now this model part is completed. We need to take this properties and these functions on the controller part. So let's come back again to the controller, student controller, where we have function called create, where we need to write a logic for calling the procedure. Okay. Now just once you have created that class, student class, model class, we need to just import the package that using MVC project dot models. So if you have imported that, it means you can create the object of that student. So student class, oh my god, one sec, student class, let's create this object equals to new student class. You have created the object. It means you can access the methods of the student class now. Now we have to write the logic for insertion. So before that we need to again import that packages that are system.data. I'm sorry, that not packages, exactly their namespace, system.data.sql client. So come back again to the code. Now here we have to take some command. Let's give this as SQL command cmd equals to null. Now here cmd, before start with the cmd, let's call the get connection. Now initialize that cmd equals to new SQL command. Here we have to call that procedure insert student, and this will take as second parameters con. Oh my god, we have not declared con as public, so let's give this con variable as public. Come back again here and obj.con. Now next thing is cmd dot command type, which will be command type dot stored procedure. Now we need to add the parameters to the stored procedure, so we need to add cmd dot parameters dot add. First parameter was of procedure is student id, comma, its data type is int, then data type is SQL db dot int dot value equals to convert dot to int 32. Can just take the values from the form. So this will be request dot form where student code we have to take, and it should be dot to string. Second parameter we need to take as student name. So here no need to convert that into integer because it is already taking that variable as a string. Here only thing is we need to change the data type dot and varchar. Here also we need to change the parameter as student name. So these two parameters are of stored procedure parameters. Now just open the connections. So obj.con.open and cmd.execute non-query, as it is not returning anything. So obj.con.close. So this will close the connection, and we are returning OK index, we are returning view, that's it. So this will be a code for inserting the student details into your table. Now let's check it first whether we have missed out something. Now come back to the create ASPX page. Now you will see it will give you error because we have taken the model as yours from the database layer, but we want to take it from your MVC project dot your models dot student class. So this will be a new model. Now here when you just change the, this will be our student code, this will be student code, this will be student code, student name, yes, it is okay. So this is working fine. Now let's execute this. Now let's add the student first. Let's add student 1827. Let's say student is great. So you'll see 1827 Vikrant Shaka added over here. Okay. So this is the MVC code for insertion. Thank you.